Hello everyone. So I have my reading wrap up for November and December. I kind of combined the 2 months, and I did get through 9 books, which is a little off my usual. I usually do about 6 books a month, but I think some of these were 5-star reads, and I was just reading them slowly and just savoring them. So I think in 2022 I did manage to read about close to 75 books. That was kind of my goal. I think I was short by a few books, but anywho, so I'll start, I think this time I'll start with the 5-star reads and then kind of make my way down from there. So the first book is the first book in a trilogy by Catherine Arden, and this is The Bear and the Nightingale. And this takes place in the 13th century Russia. At the time it was called Rus, and at the time, the Mongols were actually kind of the overlords of Russia. They had invaded Russia and had taken over. But in these smaller areas, there were still princes and lords and that who were Russian, who could still have power in that, but they were still beholden to the Mongol overlords. And in this small village that's probably about a 2-week journey from Moscow, this young girl lives with her family, and at the time they believed in house demons. So if you gave them food and that, the house demons would kind of protect your house. And there was these creatures also in the forest who looked after the forest and everything like that. So it's based on Russian folklore. And at one point, this young girl whose grandmother actually had these magical powers, this granddaughter has inherited these kind of powers. So she's actually able to see all these creatures in the house, in the woodlands, and that sort of thing. But no one else can see them. So at one point, her mother dies, and her father brings back a new wife, the stepmother, and things kind of go downhill from there. They get a new priest who doesn't believe in these woodland creatures. He thinks they're demons, even though they're not. And yeah, things just go downhill from there. It is such a great story. Some of it takes place in Moscow. A lot of it takes place in this village. I just really loved how she told the story. It was, for me, it was a real page turner. It wasn't really fast paced or anything like that, but it was just such a fascinating story for me. So I definitely give this 5 stars, and I do have the 2 other books that I've collected. Another 5-star read is Krampus. So this is Krampus the Yule Lord, and this is by Brahm. So he actually illustrates, does all the illustrations in the book. So each chapter starts with a specific illustration. And he also did some colored illustrations throughout. So Krampus is based on actual folklore based in, I think, Germany, Austria. And it's definitely pagan, so a lot of his books, like his last book was called Slewfoot, so it was kind of the strict Puritans against the pagans. And so Krampus, I don't want to give too much away, but it's basically Krampus versus Santa Claus. Though, was Santa Claus really Santa Claus, or was he someone else? So that's kind of answered in here, and it takes place in modern day. I think it's a Kentucky or West Virginia. And yeah, they just Krampus finally escapes this kind of prison that he was in for like half a millennial, and he gets out, and it's kind of trying to get his power back. And that sort of thing. It's just a fun read. I just love how he tells a story. And actually, I did pick up Child Thief from Brahm. Big thick puppy here. Kind of, these are not children's stories, but it's kind of based on the story of Peter Pan. Loosely based on Peter Pan. So I did get that one. And there's another one I got from Book Outlet of his. I think The Lost Gods it's called. But yeah, I really do enjoy them. I gave Slewfoot 5 stars. I give this one 5 stars. It's just a fun story. There is some body horror. But I mean, you really root for the characters in here. The protagonist is just this guy who kind of gets caught up in this battle between Krampus and Santa Claus, and you're really rooting for him. And even Krampus, you gotta fall in love with Krampus. He means well, but yeah. But yeah, it was just a fun story to read. And this is by Deanna Rayborn. This is A Treacherous Curse, and this is book. Is this book 3? I think this is book 3 of the Veronica Speedwell mysteries. And this takes place in London in the 1880s, and it's this woman who's actually kind of like a scientist. She collects and studies butterflies, and she is kind of paired up with this other naturalist, Stoker. And yeah, Veronica and Stoker, they are some of my favorite characters in fiction, and God knows I read a lot of books, but they're up there. They're just the sexual tension, the banter, the mysteries are so much fun. I think I do have the first 7 or 8 books, and I think there's another one coming out, which I'll scoop up, but I just don't get tired of reading these. They're just so much fun. And then this is The Alchemist's Daughter by Mary Lawrence, and this takes place in the 1500s in London, England. So this woman is a herbalist, or she sells remedies and medicines to people, and she works with her father, and they're in a very, very poor part of England at the time, and her good friend of hers comes and visits her and is complaining of a stomach ailment. She gives her something, and a few minutes later she's kind of dead. And so she's this alchemist's daughter, suspected of murdering her friend, and she kind of takes off, and she needs to prove herself that she is actually innocent. And oh, I gave this one 5 stars also, of course. This one I give about a 4 star to. I did like the atmosphere, just the description of the 15th century London, and how squalid and filthy and desperate people were at that time. Yeah, it was a good read. There's a lot of twists and turns. It was just kind of this mystery where she's trying to solve who actually murdered this young girl. So yeah, it was a pretty good mystery, actually. And then I needed something a bit lighthearted. This is Christmas by the Book by Anne Marie Ryan. So it is a bookstore story. Now, like many of these bookstore stories, usually it's based on a bookstore that is kind of struggling to stay open and that sort of thing. So again, it's the same kind of theme. But I really like how this one was done, actually. A lot of ones that are kind of based in bookstores, you don't really hear a lot about the bookstore. It's just kind of the story, and then the bookstore is kind of in the background. But this one was really quite good. The owners of this bookshop are kind of struggling to keep this store open, and all the struggles the neighbors are going through, all the tragedies that they have to deal with. And the owners actually talk about some of the books that people are buying. And I just thought it'd be kind of a lighthearted read, but it was kind of sad in spots and kind of uplifting in others. It actually was a really good bookstore story. Yeah, they talked a lot about the actual bookstore and how they're going to keep it open, and talking about different books. I give that a 4 star. It kind of surprised me, but I did like it. I can't remember how I rated this one, but I do love history books. This is by Betsy Tobin, and this is called Iceland. So this takes place AD 1000. So yeah, a long time ago. And this is about the gods, the Nordic gods like Freya and Odin. They talk about these people, but all these gods and their children actually live amongst everyone else at times. They're not way up in the sky somewhere, they're up in a mountain or something like that. And then they're kind of interacting with the people of Iceland and that sort of thing. There's a lot of mythology in here, and it was not bad. It was like, I could give it about a 3.5. There was certainly a lot of very interesting characters. They went into different types of groups that were living in Iceland, like the dwarves and their special powers and that sort of thing. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I mean, a little bit forgettable maybe. This is The Foundling by Stacey Halls. And this woman gets pregnant when she's just a teenager, and at the time they were 1754 in London, England. They were able to go to the Foundling Hospital, and they would give their children to this Foundling Hospital, and they would raise the children. Now, if you were lucky enough, you could go back in a few years when you can afford it, or when you're married or something, and get your child back. And she was able to save up money, and after about 5 years, she went back to get her child from the Foundling Hospital. But they said, well, someone by your name came and picked up the child already. She is able to find her child, and she is adopted by this wealthy woman. So she, to get close to her child, or even to get her back, she starts working as a maid for this wealthy woman who basically stole her child. And then kind of the consequences of what happens when she does that. This is very slow paced. I like slow paced histories. I don't know. I just soak them in. So if you don't like really slow paced books, you may not like this one. It's kind of interesting how these Foundling hospitals came about, and I did do a lot of reading about these Foundling hospitals. But yeah, it was very slow paced. I wasn't really expecting the ending. But yeah, I give it like a 3.75 stars. You do have to like kind of slow paced histories though. And this is an Agatha Christie, The Murder at the Vicarage. So this is the very first Miss Marple mystery. So I have read Poirot mysteries, and then there were none, Death on the Nile, Murder on the Orient Express. I really like those ones, the twist and turns. I really like those ones. So this one is the first Miss Marple. But yeah, I didn't like this one as much as like the Poirot ones. Miss Marple didn't really show up that much. To me, it seemed like everyone else was kind of solving the mystery, or going around picking up clues, and then people would go to her with these clues, and she would kind of sum it up and figure out who the murderer was. But you never saw Miss Marple too much, so I don't know. I would say early on I figured out who the murderer was, and I didn't change my mind. There was a lot of red herrings along the way. She was certainly trying to get the focus on different people, but I stood my ground and I was right. So I don't know. It was not my favorite Agatha Christie. I don't know. It just wasn't the best. I give that like 3.5 stars. It just wasn't my favorite Agatha Christie. And this is The Girl with the Pearl Earring by Tracy Chevalier. So this was made into a movie by Scarlett Johansson, with Scarlett Johansson and I think Colin Firth. So I would rather watch the movie, and I don't say that very often. I always think the book is better, but I saw a snippet, after I read this, I saw snippets of the movie on YouTube, and I would probably suggest reading or watching the movie instead of reading the book. I love history. I love slow-paced history, but this one, it was just nothing really happened, and you're just waiting for the tension to kind of build up or something, and there's just but looking on the clips on YouTube, I think just because it's based on art, who was the Vermeer? Oh, it was a Dutch artist, Vermeer, who drew the painting of the girl with the pearl earring. And visually, I think you need to see the movie because it is based on like art and that sort of thing. And yeah, the movie looks pretty good. I will sit down and watch the whole thing at some point. But yeah, this was just pretty slow paced. It wasn't very long, but there's just not a lot happening with it. So I gave that about a 3 stars. Just yeah, it's definitely one that did better with the movie, I think. So that's it. That's my reading for the last 2 months, and I got a ton of new books. Holy smokes, it would take me 2 hours to go through all this. So if you want to see my new books, let me know. Right now I'm reading the second book in the Beartown series by Frederick Bachman, and I gave the Beartown 5 stars. I didn't think I would enjoy these books because it's kind of modern day drama kind of thing. It's a small town in Sweden, kind of revolves around a hockey team, and I love hockey, but I just not into that kind of drama and all that stuff. But boy, I gave it a 5 star. It surprised me. Beartown is so good, and you don't have to like hockey. You can hate hockey, and it's still an excellent book. The story kind of based around the hockey team, but it's more what's happening with the people outside the hockey game. It's about a horrible thing that has happened and how everyone reacts to it. He is so good with figuring out human nature. Like, it's just fascinating reading his take on human nature and that. So this is Us Against You, which is the second book in the series, which I'm almost done, and I'll probably give this a 5 star also. So anyway, that's it. That's what I read the past couple months, and yeah, if you read anything good lately, let me know. And if you do want to see a really long video about some of these new books I managed to purchase, let me know. Anyway, it'll be a long one. So everyone take care, happy reading, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.